Hi there. Today we're going to sharpen a pocket knife. The great thing about learning or sharpening a pocket knife, or the difficulty of it, is this is a slip joint, so the blades don't lock. So when we open it up, it snaps into place, but if we put too much pressure on it, it can be dangerous. So we're going to take some precautions when we're sharpening this versus sharpening a fixed blade. So the other good thing is that this has three different types of blades on it. So we have three different profiles that we're going to learn to sharpen. So we have a clip point blade. We have a sheep's foot, and we have a spade blade here. So this is just an old pocket knife. I got this when I was in high school, probably in the 80s. It's carbon steel, simple carbon steel. So it's very easy to sharpen. Even the 440s and the stainless steels they use for, less expensive pocket knives like this here, this little Rough Rider is a 440, and it's stainless steel. And this is also very easy to sharpen. So these are good types of things to learn to sharpen on. It's going to be these older steels like the 440 stainless or simple carbons like this one here. So we're going to start with the easiest one, which is going to be the flat blade here, the sheep's foot. And you can use anything to sharpen on that is for nice sharpening. It's very simple with simple steel blades. You can use the whetstones that you can get from Amazon. With a smaller blade, it's not that big of a deal because you're not, cupping the stone. That's the reason I like to use diamond stones like this one. So, but you can sharpen a pocket knife with just about anything. So we're going to go and open up this little sheep's foot here. And so as far as what angle we're going to hold it at, everybody's got different methods of doing it. The ones that I like to use is basically whatever the manufacturer made on this. I'm not too concerned with any different angle or creating an angle of my own. So I'm just going to take a marker and I'm going to run it down the edge of the blade on the bevel, which is the cutting bevel, the apex. So now I've got that darkened with ink. I'll do the other side too. Let me get some alcohol. We'll clean that off because I got too much marker. So we only want to get marker on the bevel itself. Okay, so we've got marker on the bevel. And let me get a picture of that close up for us. All right, so now that we've got that edge marked on here, we're going to take and just make sure we have a stable surface, whether you're using a diamond stone or you're using a whetstone. You're going to want to soak that whetstone. Just follow the instructions with whatever medium you're using to sharpen with. So we're going to do, remember this can fold up, and we're going to go, so we're not going to go in this direction. We can go back and forth with it, but you got to be very light, and this doesn't have really any damage to it. So all we're doing is just sharpening the blade. So some people, try to get their angle by going, 90 degrees and then halving that to 45, then halving that again. And that's a good angle for them. And if that's the way your knife is set, that's great. But for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and place it down and try and match that angle. And I'm going to draw it to myself. And then I'm going to take a look at the edge that we just drew the cross, because remember we put the ink on there. So if we take a look, we can see that we basically took off pretty flat. You can adjust a little bit. There might be a little bit towards the tip, so I need to go a little more towards the tip. So we're going to go ahead and continue with this. So we're going to hold that, get the angle that we feel is correct, and draw it across. And we'll take a look again. So that is basically picking it up. Okay. So we're keeping that blade level with the stone. Now, I'm having to sort of, at the very end, I'm not getting the very end. So see how it's not completely straight? So I'm going to need to give it, because this is a flexible blade, I'm doing it with one hand, I'm going to draw it to me, and I'm going to kind of give it a little more pressure here at the tip. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. And when you get a little more close to the choil here, the choil is this little nick here. It's what we call a sharpening choil. All right, so to help stabilize that and to get the end, I might put a little pressure here. So it's not a lot, I just want to put some pressure here so I can do this correctly. So I want to get even pressure all the way across the blade, and it's not a lot of pressure. Okay, so we've got a pretty good bevel starting there. And I can feel a bit of a burr. I don't know if you can hear that. So now we're going to do the same thing with the other side. So I want to do about roughly the same amount of passes. So we have the black ink on here. We're not pushing hard. We're just checking to see if we're getting the right angle, and that's really pretty close. Make adjustments. And with a steel like this, simple carbon, it's going to sharpen really, really easily. So you don't need a lot of pressure. You can also go back and forth. So if you find that angle and you've got it set well, you can move it like this. You just won't want to put enough pressure on here to fold that blade on you. Looks like this might have a little bit of a bend here. So right here, it looks like this blade may be a little low. So to get that sharp there, I was going to work that section right there a little bit more. I'm feeling for a burr. And you'll raise a burr. Doesn't matter which way you're going, if you're going forward or backwards. Like we talked about when we were sharpening the chisel, you want to lock your wrist. That's how you lock that angle. And I'm moving my arm, not my wrist and my hand. And that's what keeps it stable. So locking here at the wrist and moving at the shoulder and elbow. That's what helps you keep a consistent angle when you're sharpening. Oh, and by the way, the grit on this is 1200 on this side. There's no reason to use the coarser side because we don't need to reprofile or reshape this or do any repairs. So I feel a little tiny burr on the back side, and that's what we're looking for. So this one is sharp. We're going to call that sharp. Let's see, another piece of paper here. I may or may not. So just this piece of paper. I hate paper cut tests, but one thing it can do is tell you if you've missed a spot. So that slices through that. very easily. So to test if you've missed a spot, you're gonna, instead of just going straight along and going the full length with the same point of the blade, you're gonna saw with the blade. So once you get started, of course now I'm not gonna be able to cut anything. Once you start that cut, you want to drag the blade through and listen for a change in the sound, or if it catches. So that's pretty smooth, and we haven't even stropped yet. So that all has pretty much the same sound as we go through. Now to strop, you can use a strop, but if you don't have a strop, you can use a leather belt. Here I've got a leather belt, and you know, you could just strop it on a belt. You know, there's a belt that I wear that I made, and you could lay this flat, and you could strop it on the belt. Now remember, when we're stropping, we never want to go into it. We want to go away from the cutting edge. So if I was going to use this belt to strop, you would just lay it down, and you're just going to drag it across here. And what we're doing is we're just taking off that micro burr. Now, this is if you're in a pinch, you can use a belt. I prefer to use an actual strop that was, you know, made for this, for sharpening. So there's a video on how to make a strop, but this one has compound on it. So it's got a honing compound, or sharpening compound. And with a slip joint, you don't want to push hard either way. But for this, we're just going to use the side that has the compound on it. And we're just going to keep the same angle that we had before. Give it a few strokes. You can hear that. So we'll do a few that way. A few that way. And we're checking to see if we've gotten the burr off of it, and we have. And a lot of people feel it's necessary, and some feel it isn't necessary. I just always have. I also strop on a skin side. So this is the flesh side with the compound, and this is the skin side or the grain side of the leather. And I also do that. I don't know if it does any good, but it makes me think it's doing something. So we've now sharpened this sheep's foot, and see how this cuts now that we've stropped. It should cut a little smoother. Has the same sound all the way through. And you could shave hair, but I'm not going to do that. I just think that's kind of, you know, just not something I like to do. So that's how to sharpen the sheep's foot. Now that's a straight blade, so that's probably the easiest one to do. So the next we're going to do, we'll try the spay blade, or actually we'll do this is a straight blade. The drop point is a straight blade with a slight curvature to the end. So this will be the next easiest one to put an edge on. So let's go ahead and mark that up. Take out our pen, and we're going to want the bevel. We're just going to try and put some Sharpie on that bevel without getting it up the side of the blade. So just covering the apex. So we have the primary grind on a pocket knife where it goes from the thick part to where it thins down. It has one level grind, and then it has the blade edge, which is the sharp part, and that is a second grind. And that's usually the angle that people are talking about when they're referring to what the sharpened angle is on the knife or blade. Okay, so we put the Sharpie on there. we're going to come back over to the stone. And it's the same principle. We're going to lay it down, try to match the angle, and we're going to draw it lightly across here. And this time we sort of curve it up a little bit at the end. And then we're going to take a look, and we can see that I'm catching here. Looks like there's a bit of a belly in here, and then I'm catching near the end. So let's go across here again. Yeah, we're gonna have a little bit of work to do on this, so let's flip the stone. Do I want to do that? I don't. This is a knife I got when I was in high school, so I'm not going to do any corrections. I'm just going to try and sharpen this blade. So rather than trying to get everything correct from here to here, because obviously I've used this section, it's got a little bit of a belly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to sharpen that belly in here using a little additional pressure with my thumb and try and use the edge of the stone. So that would be kind of like, you know, trying to sharpen a recurve or a blade that has a big belly or a big, you know, scoop in the bottom that comes like this. So I'm just going to try and use that edge. If you had a circular stone, it would be easier. I'm just going to see if I can sharpen that little bit there. And all I'm doing is the same angle, and then I'm kind of coming across this edge right here to try and catch that. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but I am starting to get that sharpened in that voided area. I'm keeping the same angle, so it's the same bevel, but I'm just giving a little bit of a rock as I come to the edge here to get that belly. So a way to fix this would be to reprofile it, and that would be to go to the coarser side and just come across it and sort of flatten that out until this was a straight line. And then the curve up this way, where right now we've got the straight line here at the very beginning, and then it has a little bit of a belly in the middle from use, and then it's the regular blade shape. So it's just from use. But because I got this many, many years ago, I don't want to do that. I want to keep this in my pocket when I like to carry it. Okay, so that looks like we're getting that sharpened across here. And we've got a little bit at the hip, so there might be a little ding or something right near the tip. So what we'll do is come across here, and we'll give a little extra detail to that section right there. So I'm just sort of lifting it slightly to get it to come into contact. Because when we do this, if this was completely straight, we'd be coming across, and right here near the end, we're just sort of rotating the blade a little bit. It just takes practice. But we want to keep that shiny edge the same thickness if we can. It looks like I might have a nick there. The shiny edge the same thickness all the way across. Okay, so let's go to the other side now. And always take your time. I mean, it's just a knife, but you want to sharpen it and just take your time. However long it takes to sharpen it. The important part is keeping your arm locked here at the wrist. So on this side, we're going to have to do the same thing. We're getting some pretty good contact up in here. It's getting nice and shiny. So it's going to take a little additional work in this area. feel for the burr. All right, let's do a few all the way across. So I don't know if you can hear that or not, but when I go this way, because we were going in this direction, so we've raised a burr that's going to be coming up and out this way, up and out this way. So if I've gone this direction, the burr is going to go up away from the stone that we're sharpening on. So I should be able to feel that on this side, not on this side. So you kind of hear that. If I go this way, there's no sound because it's not catching my fingerprint. Okay, so we'll go ahead and a couple more strokes. So we can also remove the burr by very lightly going that way and that way. And that should have taken the majority of that burr off, and then we'll go to stropping. All right. And that sounds pretty good for this blade that we're trying to correct. So still pretty dull right here in that belly. So we can come back and try and do a little bit more work right in here. So this side looks pretty uniform other than right there at the tip. Here, let me get a close up. So see right here next to the sharpening choil, there's a dark spot. That's where that's not picking up, or that's where it's like not starting to cut. But we've got the rest of it with a nice shine to it. And let's see what the other side looks like. Then on this side, other than right there at the tip, we've got that little dark spot. So let's do a little more work to this one. So we're going to work on that part right there, right at the choil, right at the sharpening choil. So we're going to come in here and give a little work to that section. And we've about got that out. So since we're working, like spot working in that section, we're not going to go the whole length because we don't want to remove material from the entire blade to make that correction. Okay, so that's better. And then we've got right here at the tip. So we're just going to do a full stroke, and the tips, you got to be very careful with the tips. they'll grind off real quick. So give a little bit of a raise to it right at the end. So I'm establishing the angle. I'm starting with very light pressure and then increasing the pressure as I get to the tip to try and take care of that spot. It looks like we did. So let's do the same thing on this side. We've still got this tip to work on here. So we do the same thing. Get the angle. And a little extra emphasis on that tip. Almost there. Now, you never want to just touch this sharp part of the blade. You're going to want to go across it in the non-cutting direction. And if you do want to just check to see if it's biting on your fingernail, if you just touch it and try to move it, you'll feel it resist. And it's actually cutting into the nail, so you want to be very careful. But if it grabs the nail, you're sharp. Okay, so we're going to strop that again. I'm going to add a little more compound to this. Doesn't take much once you get your strop saturated. You just want a little bit, something a little bit fresh. So now we can strop this. I'm going to hear it. It sounds a little grainy. We'll go back. I got a little shallow, so I started to take some patina off. I didn't want to do that because I like patina on a knife. Patina is the basically oxidization of this carbon steel blade, which I kind of like patinas and old looking things if you hadn't noticed. But at the same time, as I keep this in my pocket and use it, it will develop patina again. So let's see, do I have another piece of paper here? Got wrinkled paper, that's always hard to cut. So wipe this off. And let's see how we did. So I'm going to call that pretty good now, at least for a knife that I keep in my pocket to open boxes. We still got maybe some repair that we need to do up near the sharpening choil, but that's not horrible. Get a straight edge. right, so that is sharpening a drop point that has some damage to it. And if you were really wanting to, I'm not, but you could take this and you could grind that blade and re-profile the tip, and that you're going to use the coarse side to do that. So we have one more type of shape of blade to sharpen on this knife, and that is this spay blade. So it's called a spay blade because it's the shape of a spay or a spade. So we're going to do the same thing and put some Sharpie on it. Now, you know, we don't even need to. So this one's got patina on the whole thing. So the blade, the edge and everything. So I'll be able to see that difference on one thing that shines up when I go to drag this across. So this time we're going to do it without putting any ink on there as a guide. So same idea. This is a very thin blade too. This is a little thinner than the other. This is as thin as, yeah, about the same. But if you look at the back of a slip joint, you can see the thickness of the spring. The spring thickness is going to match the thickness of the spine of the blade. So our drop point is the longest blade. It's got a bigger, wider spring. And our smaller two auxiliary blades, the sheep's foot and the spay blade, are thinner and they've got a thinner spring. So that's how you can kind of determine, you know, how delicate the blade is going to be when you drag it on here. So this one we're going to go ahead and, you know, and try to establish this angle. And with this one, right at the end, we curve a little bit more, and it's more of a gentle curvature that we're going to do, whereas the other one kind of had a tip that we really cranked on at the end. Let's see, can we see? Yep. So we can see that we need to do a little bit more work in two spots. So if we take a look at this, we can see that right here at the blade choil that we need to do a little work here. And also at the tip, we need to do a little more rotating and get that blade tip, because you can see our sharpening, our little apex edge for the sharpening, we need to come around that corner. So we're going to give it a little more pressure here at the beginning, right here. And this rotation, I need to go a little bit further down here, all the way to here. So I'm adapting the way that I'm pulling this to compensate. So looks like we're getting this edge here now, and we're straightening up this in the back. So, and if you got this sort of locked and you're comfortable with the angle and you feel like you're comfortable holding it, you can actually do spirals. A little more emphasis on one area than another. But to start out, get comfortable just with single passes. And that choil's got a pretty big nick there, so I may not be able to get it sharp all the way back to the choil without doing some adjustment to the blade profile, which I want to avoid doing. Okay, so that side we've done a pretty good job on, and now we want to do the same on this side. So yeah, I'm not even making contact here in the beginning stroke and over here. So it's just from use of this blade. So we're going to go back and we're going to kind of see what we can do here just at the beginning. So I've got this down, but I'm tilting this up just a slight bit so I can make contact. So I'm keeping the same angle for our grind, or for, you know, the apex. But what I'm doing is I'm lifting this so that I can get that same angle and just sort of work right here, right at the blade choil. So without reprofiling it flat and bringing it all together, I'm just trying to get a little bit of a sharpness here. So I'm just making a correction. And I don't actually carry this one too often. I've actually bought another one on eBay so that I have a duplicate of it, because I actually lost this for about 2 years. Couldn't find it. And I was heartbroken. So I ordered a new old stock on eBay of this very inexpensive pocket knife I carried as a teenager. So that's the one that I carry, because I don't feel so bad if I lose it, and this one normally stays in my drawer. So I tend not to carry this around because I'm scared I'm going to lose it. Okay, so I've got to do some more work on this tip. And this side looks fairly good, other than a couple of low spots that I may not be able to address. Let's wipe that off real quick. See if that's just not. Yep, and it was. So I saw some dark spots, and then I wiped it off, and it turned out it was just, you know, blade filing, the filings from the metal. So I was glad that I did that, because I could have taken off more than was required. All right, well, I'm going to call that pretty good. And we're going to strop it. And this has a little bit of rust or some gunky stuff on here, so you can also use your strop to clean this up. And since that's got some clumps, I'm going to see if I can do that. So I'm going to put it down, not for the blade, but back to the flat, so the primary grind. So I'm not cutting into. Let's see if I can just give that a little bit of a polish. And without polishing too much, because if you continue to do it, you're going to take the patina completely off. I'm just taking the roughness off of that, where it seems to be corroding a little bit. So that's pretty smooth now. Now let's see if this will cut. So that cuts pretty well. So that's how you sharpen a pocket knife, especially one that you know, you can just do it slow and take your time and, you know, practice and learn. I suggest getting something like one of these is a Rough Rider. It's very inexpensive. You can pick these up for like $12 or $14, and then you've got yourself a nice big blade that you can practice with before you say jump on grandpa's pocket knife and mess it up. So thanks for watching. If you're interested in this sharpening stone, I have an affiliate link to Amazon for it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We're going to have some other sharpening videos coming up. I'm going to be working on this antique chisel that I just picked up that looks bent. We're going to fix this, and we're going to repair all this, you know, interesting grinding and facets that somebody had done to it. But this is a beautiful chisel. I'd like to use it again, so we're going to repair that in an upcoming video. We've also got a draw knife that I picked up recently, and this has been hanging on a wall since '91 when they picked it up and bought it at an auction. So our next video that I'm going to be doing is going to be how to not refurbish, but to take these older tools and get them in condition where they can be worked and used again, without really destroying the patina. So please, like and subscribe if you want to see those videos coming up, and appreciate you watching today. Thanks so much.